Not many players in all of sports history are of the caliber that show up in a team game and elevate the franchise from last to first. To be considered the most important player in a franchise's history is an incredible feat, as there are only 124 franchises among the big four in America. He was so important to the success of his primary franchise in particular. He was later dubbed the franchise. And he's the reason the NFL GOAT couldn't trademark the nickname Tom Terrific. This is what you don't know about the Hall of Fame pitcher, Tom Seaver. Welcome to What You Don't Know About Sports, where we delve into the forgotten stories, teams, and athletes of sports history and question widely held takes on today's sports. I'm Blake, and this is Matt.
Howdy.
And today we're going to tell you about, probably, most likely, the greatest and most important New York Met in the franchise's history, Tom Seaver. Before we get started, I want to ask you, in the very beginning of the intro, I mentioned last to first. What is your favorite quote-unquote rags to riches, last to first sports story for a franchise?
So, an honorable mention, I think, before we came on air would have been, we were talking about the big three from the Boston Celtics. I know that's calling them rags, not really something that's appropriate for a team that is one of the two that have won almost half the NBA championships. But for most of our lifetimes, the Celtics were absolutely terrible. And then they got Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett to go along with Paul Pierce, and they were good for a while and have continued to be that way. That's an honorable mention. I think the rags to riches, the most obvious one is something you alluded to in the intro. The New England Patriots, from almost all of their history, with very few bright spots, were hot garbage juice. And then Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and company show up, and now they have, as many, the two of them together with the Patriots have as many Super Bowl championships as the rest of the NFL combined. So that is from one end of definitely rags to the opposite end, definitely rich. I think that's the best example I can think of.
That's a good one. I'm sure there are a bunch too, and I know this episode is about baseball. Ooh. But my first thought was the Cleveland Cavaliers and it didn't happen immediately, but when LeBron did show up and then leave and then come back and won them their first championship. So he put Cleveland on the map, because I don't think they ever were before he got there. So that's probably that's the first one I thought of.
For a lot of years, Craig Elo and Brad Daugherty would be the best Cavaliers. So that's it's not a good. I mean, it is, but it's also not.
Yeah.
How about the Saints?
Before Sean Payton and
Drew Brees, yeah. How about the Saints?
The paper bags in their heads and stuff. Yeah, it was really bad. That is a good one.
The next time the Washington, whatever their names are, win would be a rags to riches.
We're going to talk about them and all the legs they've broken in FedEx Field. Anyway, on to Tom Seaver. George Thomas Seaver was born on November 17th, 1944 in Fresno, California, to Betty Lee and Charles Henry Seaver. He started playing baseball around the age of 9. He was introduced to pitching as well as being an outfielder, because you have to do basically everything as a little leaguer when you're that good. You just play wherever they put you, right? He became a standout pitcher in high school, though. He had incredible control over the ball, even during his high school days. He was also an all-city basketball player. We've seen this a ton. Some of the best athletes of all time were great in other sports, and they had to make a choice But Tom wanted to play baseball in college. He wanted to pursue a baseball career. And so that's what he did. He ended up joining the Marine Corps Reserve in 1962. He served 6 months active duty in the reserve, and then he enrolled in Fresno City College. We always like these just random little schools getting these. I mean, I would be willing to bet their baseball field is named after him just because he went there for like 2 days. But anyway,
Yeah.
while at Fresno City College, USC, Southern Cal, for our East Coast friends, USC refers to Southern California. They actually just settled a lawsuit about this recently. So it's okay.
That's why USC is in Los Angeles and Carolina is in Chapel Hill for our neighbors to the south.
The University of Southern California recruited Seaver to play baseball for them. And during the summer, they weren't sure if he was quite ready to be a scholarship collegiate player. So they sent him to Alaska to go play for the Alaska Gold Panners, a summer league team, almost like a tryout. He ended up winning a game as the starting pitcher. He ended up hitting a grand slam, which at that level for a pitcher, not too bad. Came back and they offered him a scholarship. So in 1965, as a sophomore at USC, he went 10-2, and then he was drafted in the 10th round by the LA Dodgers. During contract negotiations with the Dodgers, though, he asked for $70,000. That's pocket change for players, well, major league players today. You might see some minor league players still making that or less. But in 1965, that was a lot of money. For a 10th round pick, the Dodgers said, no thanks. Came back, played for USC again, and then he was drafted in the first round of the secondary draft by the Atlanta Braves. Well, Commissioner Eckert at the time voided the contract because USC, what did I say, UNC? That was habit, my bad. University of Southern California played 2 exhibition games, and that made him ineligible. Well, then he decided he wanted to come back and finish the college season. But the NCAA ruled that he was ineligible because he signed a pro deal. And so now he's not an amateur anymore. Well, then his father got involved. He complained to Eckert, and Seaver's father ended up threatening to sue everybody, probably. And the MLB ended up allowing other teams to match the Braves' offer. Now, I want to make this distinction. He wanted $70,000 as a 10th round draft pick by LA the next year as a first round draft pick in the secondary draft, mind you, but first rounder. The Braves only offered him $51,500. I wonder if he regrets that $70,000 offer. Probably not. It turned out fine. We'll get there. Eventually, they allowed 3 other teams came forward saying that they would match the Braves' offer. The Phillies, the Indians, and the New York Mets. A lottery drawing took place, and the Mets quite literally won the lottery and got Tom Seaver on their roster. That's how he ends up in New York.
Wow. Okay, so we see this a lot of times with, John Elway was drafted by the Colts, didn't want to play there, ends up going to Denver. The whole Eli Manning thing puts him, he didn't want to play for the Chargers, so him and Phillip Rivers swap places. This is a similar situation where it's not that the player doesn't want to play somewhere, but he wants what he wants. And it's another butterfly effect situation here. That's what makes this one different, is that it's, in the NBA, we get the draft lottery, but here we had a lottery for this player. They probably didn't realize what he was going to become necessarily, but this changes at least Mets history in a big way. And we'll get to that, but none of it happens without this random lottery going their way. That's, I never realized that about him, or anyone for that matter. That's a weird way to handle that situation.
I wonder I think that was probably a one-off.
Maybe, I guess the Braves weren't, I don't know. Like, why would the Braves not get their guy back? I don't know. Maybe they moved on.
Well, I guess because they took the Braves out of it because they signed him At the time, I don't know. There must have been some weird rule about it, and so they disqualified the Braves. But in order to let Seaver play in the majors after the NCAA disqualified him from college, they decided, okay, the Braves are out, but any other team can match that offer, and we'll let him come into the league. And so they must have decided that the Braves were in the wrong somehow and took them out of the running immediately,
The whole
which
situation's
is
wild.
weird. Yeah,
The whole
very weird.
situation's wild because they wouldn't let him play because he'd already played games. NCAA wouldn't even play him. I don't know. It's
Very, very odd how he gets here, but he did get to, did get to New York, and you're right, they did not realize what they were getting, because when he first got to when I say the league, when he first started playing professionally, he played for the Jacksonville Suns in the International League underneath the Mets. He went 12-12 on the season, which
Mhm.
is but his ERA was 3.13. You know how many people would like to have a 3.13 ERA? Everyone. He made the Mets roster in 1967. Now, a little bit of background on the Mets. Fairly new compared to their crosstown rivals, of course. The Mets were established in 1962. But in the years until Tom Seaver joined the team, the Mets had never won more than 66 games. Mind you, they're playing 162 games. They had never won more than 66 or finished better than ninth in a 10-team National League. They were hot garbage.
Among the
Nothing.
worst. Yeah, among the worst teams in the history of the game for multiple years.
Hot garbage. So Seaver shows up. He goes 6-4 in his first season with a 2.60 ERA, elected to the All-Star game in 1967 in his first season. He actually secured the National League win in the All-Star game that season. It was tied going into the 15th inning. The National League came up to bat, scored a run, and then in the bottom of the 15th, the coach of the All-Star game decided to put Seaver in to see if he could do something. He got a fly out. He ended up walking future Triple Crown winner Carl Yastrzemski, and then got a fly out for the second out, and then struck out the third guy to win the game for the National League in the 15th inning.
Back when they were trying to win the game,
They cared.
before they decided we got to put all 30 dudes into the game before the 8th inning so that everybody can see them play, which I get as, like, all-star games. If there was only one Yankee on the all-star team, I would want to see that player play in the game. I get that. That's cool. But at the same time, I would like to see the 9 best players play more and try to win the game. Even if it's you're already screwing with the rules. Just I know we're on a tangent about the All-Star game, but just let them reinsert the starters at the end of the game or something. I don't know, but
Yeah. Can't
it's
keep
a
them
real
for full 9 now.
it's a real exciting game to watch for about an hour, and then it becomes not that much fun anymore. But anyway,
Yeah. The rookie of the year in the National League did not pitch in the All-Star game until the 15th inning. A game and 2/3 had to go by on the same day for him to get in.
yep.
Like I just said, he didn't win NL Rookie of the Year. And after the season, the Braves owner, Bill Bartholomew, was quoted, quote, "I get sick every time I watch him pitch." Understandable. Totally understandable, because, again, that was a weird situation, and I don't know.
Regret is a terrible thing.
In 1968, his second full season with the Mets, he won 16 games, recorded over 200 strikeouts. But the Mets were still not good. They finished the 1968 season in ninth, again out of 10 teams. 1969, if you know a ton about baseball, this year will ring a bell by the time I'm done telling this story. Seaver won 25 games, including 9 consecutive complete game wins. He won the NL Cy Young and finished second in NL MVP voting that season. The Mets started the season 18-18. They were at 500 after 36 games. They finished the season 162. and won their division for the first time. In the playoffs, this was the inaugural National League Championship Series. This is the first time that there was a postseason baseball series prior to the World Series. He started game one, and they beat the Braves. He got a win in game one, and the Mets ended up winning the series 3-0, best of five. His next start came in game one of the World Series against the Baltimore Orioles. He ended up losing the game, and Baltimore won the game 4-1. In game four, he came back and pitched a 10-inning complete game. The Mets won game four 2-1 to go up 3-1, and they would win the World Series in five. This team would be later known as the Miracle Mets. That is an all-time great story. They were terrible, and then they won it all. Won 100 games.
Do I get a chance for a rant here? It's not going to be a long rant.
Go.
So, two things. One, pitchers winning the MVP should be super rare. Like, I don't think it should happen all the time, but I think it should probably happen every once in a while. Like maybe when a guy has 9 consecutive complete game wins. Like 1969 was a different era of baseball and pitchers went the distance more, but I think you're going to find that 9 consecutive complete game wins is still something that was borderline heroic at the time. I mean, that means he took the mound for 81 consecutive innings in his starts and won them all. And so that's the first rant. The second part of the rant is wins matter in baseball. Like a bunch of analytics people are like, no, the win is not a very good statistic because you need your team to do this. And you need the starting pitcher's job is to prevent the other team from scoring as many runs as his team does. So if his team scores 0, his job is infinitely harder, but he's got to pitch to give up 0. And if his team scores 5, then his job may be easier and it may be easier to get a win. I get that. Winning 25 games in a season is huge and
Bananas.
Also should be rewarded. 25 wins in a season, again, that was a different time in baseball, but still a big number for the time. So, you know, if anybody's going to win an MVP as a pitcher, maybe it could have been him. Second is totally doable. Obviously the Cy Young Award, but yeah, I think we need to normalize pitchers being MVPs when they are as lights out and game changing as that.
He was just that, and that the 25 wins would be his most in a single season. And over the next 7 seasons, from 70 to 76, he would lead the league in strikeouts 5 times of the 7. Led the league in strikeouts 5 times. Led the league in ERA 3 times. Led the league in wins once. Led the league in complete games once. And a bunch of other advanced metrics I'm not gonna have to tell you about and then make Matt explain them to you because I don't understand them all. He leads the Mets to another World Series in 1973, but they lost in 7. Lost in 7 games. But he would go on to win 2 more Cy Youngs in 1973 and 1975. That stretch of pitching is just unbelievable. And it only gets, I mean, his story only gets better. Now, we're going to get into a weird part of his story. What New York sports writers would later dub the Midnight Massacre. Okay. So, prior to the 76 season, Tom Seaver signed a contract extension with the Mets. Before the 1977 season, he wanted to renegotiate for more money. Part of the reason was he thought that he was underpaid, but the talks weren't going well. And of course, I've complained about this before on this show. Like any bad breakup in sports, there's always somebody with the team who's being stingy or slimy or whatever you want to call them. M. Donald Grant, who was chairman of the board for the New York Mets, didn't budge on these contract negotiations, and he actually called Tom Seaver an ingrate. Like, after everything he brought the team, he didn't deserve to be the highest paid pitcher in baseball. Whatever. And a New York Daily News columnist, Dick Young, wrote bad about Seaver in the papers and called him greedy for wanting more money. Like, I don't know what's in the water up there, but it makes good pizza, apparently. Dick Young also writes that Seaver's wife is pushing him to make more money because of what Nolan Ryan was making playing baseball in California. Now, remember, maybe you didn't remember this, I'll tell you. Nolan Ryan was on that Miracle Mets team as a baby Nolan Ryan, and I don't think he was even in the main starting rotation, but he was on the team. And actually, Ryan, Seaver, and only one other person are the Hall of Famers from that '69 team. But anyway, Seaver immediately asked for a trade because of all of this. Says he can't coexist with Grant, the chairman of the board. And so he was traded away from the New York Mets, the team that he did so much for and brought so much success to, on June 15th, the trade deadline, 1977, was traded to the Cincinnati Reds for 4 players in return. I feel like we should hold a funeral or something because it's not over, but it was not a great ending. And again, we see this all the time where players like, hey, wow, I just want to be compensated for what I'm worth. And the team that they've done everything for refuses to do that. And then they have to move on. And not tarnishing legacies or anything, because I don't think his was tarnished by this, but it just sucks for the Mets. And you'll hear why very, very shortly.
This is the second time in as many episodes as we get a contract dispute with the franchise legend that ends poorly for the franchise. Obviously, you know that Dick Young, the newspaper columnist, is at least friends with Donald Grant from the Mets, right? Because they're writing and talking about it the same way. And we know the way newspapers worked in that time period, especially in sports. Reporters were friends with the people they were covering, right? Players, executives, depending on, just their bias came from that. So there obviously was some. I mean, but there's two sides of that story, right? On one side, you just signed a contract, right? I don't think, if you're going to sign a contract that's got a lot of years on it, then you should, I think, be bound to that contract. That's your fault for going for the guaranteed years rather than betting on yourself multiple times, right? But also, it is okay to look around and say, well, Nolan Ryan's making this much money and I think I'm better than him, so at least pay me what he is. Right? That's, two sides to the story. Hard to pick who's right or wrong, but from a winning standpoint, you should probably keep Tom Seaver, whatever you got to do to keep him. And they didn't do that, which again, it's hard as a fan. The business side is different, but as a fan, It's hard to say, yeah, it makes total sense to get rid of the best player we've ever had, maybe, right? Like, I don't know. Hard.
Yeah. I don't think there was a single fan that was like, yeah, let's let Tom Seaver walk. Like the best thing that's ever happened to your franchise, and you're just okay with letting him walk away. That just doesn't make any sense. But
we don't need him. Cy Youngs they grow on trees.
He won 3 Cy Youngs in 10 years. 8 years, 10 years. Anyway, it is unfortunate. He will be back, foreshadowing. But before we get to that, it's trivia time, folks.
Yes, you're going to ask me what teams the colors of the Mets come from.
Yeah, no. So
the Giants and the Dodgers. I win. Let's go.
All right, moving on. Nope. My question's better than that. So,
okay.
Tom Seaver is one of 2 pitchers in Major League Baseball history with 300 wins, 3,000 strikeouts, and an ERA under 3. Who is the other?
I mean,
doozies.
It's not as easy as just saying Cy Young and being done with it, right?
It's not Cy Young, so no.
Okay, because the ERA would have got. So yeah, that's what I thought.
Tis not that easy, no. Didn't
think he really had that good of an ERA. Okay. So 300 wins, 3,000 strikeouts, and an ERA in the 2s. All right, who did this person play for?
This person was a career Washington Senator.
That's okay. We'll
If you know it, go for it. But
Oh no, we gotta play along longer. Okay, no, I think I know it, but I might say the wrong name because now there's a second name in my head. Oh, he was a career Washington senator.
Washington
When did he play?
Senators debuted in 1907.
Yeah.
His last game was in 1927. So he has 21 seasons, all with Washington.
Does this player have a nickname that's really cool?
That's a good question, does it? Yeah. Yeah. He has a couple of nicknames, but your definition of cool could be different than mine.
I guess I didn't ask for the nicknames. I just asked if they were cool. Okay, what
is his nickname? Tell me. What is it?
No, I want you to tell me his nickname.
So the two nicknames that I have in front of me are Barney and the Big Train.
Yeah, that's the one I was going with, the Big Train. That's Christy Mathewson.
No, it's not.
Oh my God. That's what I knew I was going to do. I knew I was going to sit here and I was going to say the wrong.
Confuse the name. Not Christy Mathewson. No. Okay, you still have it though. You still have it.
Do I though? Because now I have no confidence. We're going to keep going. Oh my God, what an idiot.
It is not Christy Mathewson. Not Christy Mathewson. He is very high on the wins list. He's probably high on every list. But he is but he does not qualify. I don't know what would disqualify Christy Mathewson from those. But I don't know.
I don't know. Probably I think probably the ERA again. I don't think I know it then. I mean, like I do, but I'm scared to say any other names because that one I was
Christy
sure
Mathewson was a career New York Giant.
Yeah. Okay. Who am I thinking of though?
He's on like all the lists up there. I mean, up there with Mathewson, and he's up there. God. Do you have any other questions? I think what will be a fairly easy way for you to narrow it down.
Yeah, do that.
If I give you like one tidbit.
Yeah, tidbits.
Do you want it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. As you know, the inaugural Baseball Hall of Fame class had 5 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Christy Mathewson was one of those players.
Yeah.
This person, the answer to the trivia question, is the only other pitcher in this inaugural Baseball Hall of Fame class. His hands are touching his head on his desk. It's so much harder. It's so much harder when you're on the spot.
Yeah, like because this is exactly what it feels like when you watch people that are on quiz shows and you're sitting at
Jeopardy,
home, you're killing it, and then the person on TV doesn't know what's going on. And now, because like I know all 5 members of the first Hall of Fame class, and now the only people I can think of are Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, and Christy Mathewson, and I can't even remember the other position player from the 5, let alone the person I'm actually supposed to be remembering, who now is not who I thought it was when I had 2 names in my head.
You were of the right era.
Oh, it's Walter Johnson.
It's Walter Johnson.
It's Walter Johnson. There it was.
Walter Perry Johnson.
I was like Warren Spahn, but that's not even the right era.
Not even close to the right era.
He's not in the first Hall of Fame class. Walter Johnson. And I was thinking Christy Mathewson. Yeah, Walter Johnson's the big fella.
Yep, big guy. Played 21 seasons. A career Washington Senator, played 21 seasons, ended with 417 wins, and his ERA for his career was 2.17, and he had 3,508 strikeouts. As a matter of fact, Walter Johnson led the league in strikeouts for 8 straight seasons during his career and led the league in strikeouts for 12 out of 15 in the middle of his career. Again, different era. but still impressive.
And partly because of the era, because he was so big, he allegedly threw 100 miles an hour at a time where that would have been. We had to do weird things with our arms to throw that hard now that tear them to pieces, and he was doing it in an era where nobody was doing that, and so that's part of his allure is that he was doing it. He's supposed to be on camera. We didn't have radar guns back then, and we barely had cameras. And he's supposed to be on camera doing an experiment that proved, I forget how they did it, but it proved that he could throw 100 miles per hour. So
in the 20s or the teens.
Who's the fifth person that I can't remember from that?
Honus Wagner.
Yeah, there we go. Because his rookie card is or not even his rookie card, just his card is the thing to have. Honus Wagner. Yeah. Yep. Don't play trivia games, friends. That's how you
that's what happens. That's what happens. So you had the answer and just said you confused the players. I don't even want to talk about my last trivia, and I'm just waiting for the day that I can redeem myself. Hopefully it's not another hockey episode. But we'll I don't have time to catch up that much on hockey. But anyway, go listen to the last episode if you haven't. On to the Cincinnati Reds for Tom Seaver. He goes to the Reds. He plays 5.5 seasons because he gets traded at the trade deadline. So he plays half a season and then 5 full seasons after that. He pitched his only no-hitter of his career on June 16th of 1978, his first full season with Cincinnati. He did not pitch a no-hitter with the New York Mets, and he actually earns his 3,000th strikeout as a member of the Cincinnati Reds in 1981 against our friend from the Cocaine and Baseball episode, Keith Hernandez, who played for the St. Louis Cardinals at the time. Former Met, by the way.
Former Met, yeah. Current Met broadcaster.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Just from in spokesman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he does do that, doesn't he? Anyway, he finished his 5+ seasons in Cincy with a 75-46 record, a 3.18 ERA, 42 complete games, and 158 starts. Oh, and if you were wondering what happened to the Mets, while he was gone, they would finish last the 3 seasons after Tom Seaver left them. Grant, the chairman of the board of the New York Mets, was fired after the 78 season, and their manager, Joe McDonald, was fired at the conclusion of the 1979 season. If that tells you anything about the outcome of this trade, embarrassing for the Mets. But anyway, he ends up back with the Mets. He gets traded from the Reds back to the Mets on December 16th, 1982 in the offseason. They sent 3 players to bring Tom Seaver back to the Mets. While a second-time member of the New York Mets, he tied Walter Johnson's Major League Baseball record of 14 opening day starts, starting on opening day in 1983. And as a whole, as his entire Mets career, 11+ seasons, he finished with a 198 and 124 record. His ERA with the Mets as a career was 2.57. He pitched 3,045 innings and 171 complete games. Ridiculous. He then went to the Chicago White Sox, though, which is a little weird. This is just the end of career. At this point, I think he's 39, 38. So toward the end of his career, leaves the Mets, goes to Chicago. He actually accomplished a pretty neat feat as a member of the Chicago White Sox. He won 2 games on the same day. And on May 9th, 1984, he pitched in the 25th inning of a suspended game from the prior day, picked up the win, and then he started that afternoon for the day's regular scheduled game, both against the Milwaukee Brewers, and he won both. I don't know how many times that's ever happened. That might be an interesting trivia question. I did not look that up. Getting 2 wins on the same day in a Major League Baseball game.
That's something you're not... But totally a good strategy, because I'm sure picking up the 25th inning of a game, the idea is to throw Seaver out there for as long as you need to finish that game, and then you would reassess the situation in the afternoon. So the fact that he gets the win quick means he's still ready to go.
Mhm.
Probably the only way you would see that is it is the only way you could see that now is a suspended game. Although I guess not. We are back to playing.
7 inning doubleheaders.
Well, now we play 9 inning doubleheaders.
Ew.
Yeah. So, and they happen, semi. I mean, you would need good luck and a guy to be able to pitch out of the bullpen twice, which
And get wins
actually,
out of the bullpen twice.
yeah. So you would need a late lead change 2 times with the same guy on the mound. So it would be hard. And analytics has made everybody babies, so you're not allowed to pitch
You can't
on
pitch
both
that often,
sides
though.
of a doubleheader, even if you only throw 5 pitches in the first part, you're done for part 2. So, yeah, 2 wins in the same day. That's pretty dope.
It is pretty dope. Again, I kind of want to know how often that's happened. Or if I'm sure it's happened. I mean, baseball history is ridiculous. So I'm sure it happened at some point in some weird circumstance like this, but we'll figure that out at some point. Also, as a member of the Chicago White Sox, he recorded his last career shutout in 1985. His 300th win, a hallmark win number for Major League Baseball pitchers. He came in Yankee Stadium in a complete game victory on August 4th in 1985. I don't think there's much other way for him to pitch other than pitching complete games. So that seems on par. In 2.5 seasons in Chicago with the White Sox, he finished 33-28 with a 3.67, 17 complete games still, and 81 appearances. Still not terrible. After he was done pitching in Chicago, he ended up in Boston. He spends one full season with the Red Sox. He started on opening day. His final win came on August 17th in 1986, and he finished the season, his final full season in the major leagues with Boston, finished 5-7 with a 3.8 ERA in 16 starts. And still a 41, 42-year-old Tom Seaver throwing for 3.8 ERA. You know how many pitchers in the major leagues today would love to have that?
Bunch.
Everybody.
Bunch. Yeah, but his ERA plus in those last few seasons, 105, 136, 106, and so yeah, he's above league average in each of those seasons. One of those years in Cincinnati, he's got a 140 ERA plus. That's his age 36 season. He was 36% better than the league average. And even at age 41, he was still a better than average starting pitcher. He probably could have kept going if he wanted to.
Yeah, he after his final full season in Boston, he did attempt to join the New York Mets for the third time. He was pitching in an exhibition game, and it just wasn't working for him. And after he attempted to pitch, he was quoted as saying, "There were no more pitches in this 42-year-old arm that were competitive. I've used them all up," end quote. So he literally gave it everything he had. He went until he could not throw competitive Major League Baseball pitches any longer. 42 years old after 21 seasons, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe 21. I mean, he did everything he could, and he tried to come back and do it for a third time with the team that he ended up with originally and won the World Series title with. If that shows you anything about his commitment to this team, which is part of the reason why he should have never left. Imagine him being a career Met, like I don't know, anybody who's ever been a career person with one team and how great they are revered. If he had stayed with the Mets, if he had pitched 20 great years with the Mets, we probably wouldn't be forgetting about him as an all-time great pitcher. I don't know.
That's fair.
It's just if he wasn't bounced around, he didn't play for the Reds and everybody else. I don't know. It's weird how we just forget about these people sometimes. These all-time greats, all these numbers. I'm going to go through his honors in a minute, but it's a long list, and I'm going to rattle them off. But how's that career stack up to you as for somebody who isn't really remembered as an all-time great pitcher in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, it's weird because his career isn't looked at the way Nolan Ryan from that same era gets held up in this really high esteem, and so Nolan Ryan, it's that is the comparison. That's the person everybody goes to for good reason, right? I get that, but yeah, Tom Seaver, 300 wins is a really exclusive club in baseball, and it ain't going to change anytime soon. 3,000 strikeouts is a really, really exclusive club. And then you're talking about you add the 3.0 ERA to it, and it's him and Walter Johnson, right? He has a legitimate stake, statistics wise, a legitimate claim at saying I'm the best pitcher of all time. He has to be in the discussion statistically, and he's not. Maybe part of that's because he moves around a little bit. Maybe part of that is because he is overshadowed by Nolan Ryan. But yeah, I think it very much is a similar situation to our last episode where we were talking about Ron Francis. Just kind of gets glossed over, even though when you say his name, everybody's like, yeah, one of the all-time greats. But for whatever reason, just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't register. And I'm not from that time period, right? I didn't live that, so I can't tell you the reasons why he may not be looked at the way he should. But part of it, maybe it's because there was a glut of 300 game winners in the 80s. Gaylord Perry, Steve Carlton, Phil Necro, Don Sutton, Nolan Ryan right at 1990. All got 300 wins when it hadn't been done very often before that. So maybe he just gets, I can't tell you. I can't tell you why. I can just tell you that it's weird that that he's where he is in people's minds.
It is very unfortunate. And I'm going to rattle off, and this isn't even all of his honors, right? This is like a high level overview of some of the things that he accomplished. Okay. He retired after his last full season was in 1986. Okay. The Mets retired his number 41 in 1988. He was the first Met to ever have his number retired. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1992. First ballot with 98.8% of the vote. For those of you trying to do the math in your head, that means that he was only left off of 5 ballots in 1992. I'm going to tell you why he was left off of 5 ballots. 3 of those 5 omitted Seaver because those three writers protested the Hall of Fame's vote that year because of Pete Rose's new eligibility. They just didn't fill out the form because the Hall had just banned Pete Rose for life.
So the fourth
ballot, they sent in blank ones. They didn't vote for anybody.
So people were being stupid over Pete Rose even then.
Yep. Yep. The 4th ballot was sent in by a writer who was allegedly recovering from open heart surgery and didn't notice Seaver's name on the ballot and may or may not have later said, "Oh yeah, I would have written that down, would have filled in that bubble," but he didn't. The 5th one was cast probably by the same idiot who didn't vote Derek Jeter in unanimously and decided that he refused to elect any player to be first ballot Hall of Famer. And of course, the 98.8% was the highest voting percentage in Hall of Fame history until 24 years later when Ken Griffey Jr. would be voted just slightly higher than Tom Seaver. And since Ken Griffey, only Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera have higher approval percentages, voting percentages for the Hall of Fame. Seaver was elected to the Marine Corps Hall of Fame, the New York Mets Hall of Fame, and the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. The New York Mets changed the address of Citi Field in 2019. It was changed to 41 Seaver Way in his honor. The Mets unveiled a 10-foot-tall, 3,200-pound bronze statue of Tom Seaver outside Citi Field just a couple of months ago as of this recording in April 2022. At the ceremony, Steve Cohen, the Mets owner, was quoted as saying, "There is a reason he was called the franchise. You can't measure what Tom Seaver meant to this organization. This magnificent statue will be a wonderful daily reminder to Mets fans coming to Citi Field that Tom Seaver is forever a Mets legend. If that doesn't say he's the most accomplished and most important player in franchise history, I don't know what does. Seaver also holds the Major League Baseball record for 16 opening day starts. He holds the record for most consecutive 200 strikeout seasons. He had 9 in a row during his career. And his record of striking out 10 straight batters in a single game has only been matched one time since by Aaron Nola. I believe he plays for the Phillies. That happened in 2021. Few more. Seaver is only one of 2 players in the Baseball Hall of Fame to be wearing a Mets cap in his Hall of Fame plaque. All-time lists, he's 18th in wins by a pitcher. He's 6th all-time in strikeouts. And he's 19th all-time in innings pitched. And, of course, he's, as we previously mentioned, he is 4th on the list, if you were to count this as an accolade, as the most approved player to be elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, with 98.8% of baseball writers voting yay for the first ballot. I found a neat note, and when we were discussing bringing up this episode and recording this episode, we alluded to this, and I want to get your thoughts. He is, like I said, 18th all-time in wins. He's got 311. Only Gaylord Perry, Phil Niekro, Don Sutton, Nolan Ryan, Steve Carlton, Roger Clemens, Greg Maddux, and Warren Spahn on the all-time lists. Above him were born in the 20th century. That means 9 of them, ahead of him in strikeouts, were born probably between 1850 and 1899. And there is nobody, you alluded to this earlier, there is nobody close to reaching this mark active-wise. The highest on the all-time wins list right now as an active player is Justin Verlander. He is 17 seasons in. He is 39 years old, and he's only got 234. That's tied for 64th all-time. He's not even close. Clayton Kershaw's behind him a little bit. Zach Greinke's behind him a little bit. I don't think anyone is going to get close. And you said the analytics earlier, big babies not pitching and they won't let them do it and stuff. I want to the fact that so many are really high on the all-time wins list were born so long ago, and now since 1900, there's only 9 players who have eclipsed that mark.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because the 300, I think the 300 win club has got caught up with the not even the 500 home run club, but a little bit, because guys get into the 500 home run club so often now, and the 300 win club is like the pitching equivalent, and so we think sort of intrinsically that, oh, that's supposed to happen all the time too. So when we look at Justin Verlander at 234 and a bunch of these guys that are nowhere near it, we're like, oh, that's weird. What's going on in baseball? But it's actually not that rare that we're going through this. Like, there was an 11-year stretch from Cy Young to Christy Mathewson, 1901 to 1912, where no one got it. From 1924 to 1941, no one won 300 games. That's 17 years. Then it was 20 more years before Warren Spahn got his 300th win. And then there was another 19-year stretch before the most recent one, where we had Clemens, Maddux, Glavine, and Randy Johnson do it all in a tight stretch. There was a 13-year stretch between Nolan Ryan and Roger Clemens. So we're in the midst of a 13-year stretch, and we don't have anybody in sight of getting it. So that's a little bit different. But yeah, the analytics thing, not letting guys pitch a third time through the order. A lot of pitchers aren't making it past the 5th inning of games, the 6th inning of games. A lot of bullpen arms throw 100 miles an hour, but don't know where it's going. They throw 100 miles an hour and right down the pipe, which you can hit. And so a lot of lead changes happen now in the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings of games, because everybody thinks they have a lights out bullpen and they don't. So even guys that are leading the game in the 5th and 6th inning, now it's completely out of their hands for 3 and 4 innings. They've lost a game, or they get a no decision for a game that they could have won because the analytics say you got to pull the guy. So that's part of it. And then part of it is the weird throwing motion that people are teaching pitchers. If you go look, freeze frame some of these guys, the ball in their hand is not pointing at the plate when it's at the furthest point back. It is pointing towards second base, and then they're coming through and like snapping their wrist in a weird way to like get the velocities that they're throwing, and that's tearing up whatever ligament causes Tommy John surgery. So they're out here getting that and losing years off their career. So it's weird. It sucks that we don't have any pitchers putting up numbers like that. They're putting up strikeout numbers, so we'll see that club grow. But it kind of sucks. But it's not super rare. The one thing I do want to do is like that my man that wouldn't vote a first ballot Hall of Famer. I respect that. I don't mind that because there were only 5 in the first class. So by making somebody first ballot, I get that. It's weird. I don't know. By 3 people that wouldn't vote for anybody because Pete Rose couldn't be in the Hall of Fame, like that's annoying. Now I'm sure people thought it was annoying then. I mean, God bless the man and everybody that thinks he should be in. Like, good for you. My dude took a lifetime ban in exchange for nobody investigating his claim that he didn't bet on the Reds. I'm going to say that one more time. He took a lifetime ban so that nobody would investigate his claim that he never bet on the Reds. This idea that he never bet on the Reds is not proven or disproven solely because he didn't want anybody to go find out. I think we all know what that means. Let's stop this Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame nonsense. It's like the first rule on every clubhouse.
No betting.
Don't gamble.
Yeah.
Sorry. So those 3 people, like, forget them. Like, y'all could have
Should Hall of Fame voting ballots be anonymous or no? Quick.
No.
That's a fun debate that we'll have another day.
Should they be no, definitely not.
They should put their name on them. That's what you're saying. They should not be anonymous.
Unless you're going to do it. So it needs to be one of 2 ways. If we're going to vote by mail, like we do now, no. I say we like I have a Hall of Fame vote. I don't have a Hall of Fame
One
vote.
day.
No. But if you're going to vote by mail like they do, then it should not be anonymous. You should have your name on it. If you're going to go in a room with people and debate it and come out of the room with the answer like they do in the NFL, like they do in NASCAR, I'm actually not sure how they do the Basketball Hall of Fame. But in those 2 cases, I don't need to know. Like, no, that should be anonymous, at least publicly. In the room, you should be voting face-to-face with all those people. But that's a thing that y'all are in a room, you're debating, you're discussing, you're going to bat for. You've had an argument, you've had a discussion on all the players available. So at that point, no, I don't. Everybody in that room's heard the opinion. They can come out and say, well, people thought this, people thought that, and we can learn. But otherwise, yeah, no, put your name on it. And then you need to, I didn't vote for Derek Jeter, but just like we got here, I didn't vote because Pete Rose. I didn't vote because I had open heart surgery. Like, yeah.
I don't know how they figured that out. They may have, some historian probably went back and asked, but I don't know. A couple extra notes before we go. One of his nicknames, along with the franchise, was Tom Terrific. Well, in 2019, I was not joking. In 2019, Tom Brady filed for the trademark Tom Terrific, and the United States Patent and Trademark Office said no because, and I quote, "It may falsely suggest a connection with Tom Seaver." The NFL GOAT couldn't get his nickname trademarked because of this man. Come on. Now,
he didn't
unfortunately,
get a statue till 2019. That's crazy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Seaver passed away on August 31st, 2020, due to COVID and Lewy body dementia. So he is no longer with us, but he was 75 years old after a wonderful career. It was a different era. then today we've talked about that as complete games, and no one can pitch past the sixth inning. But he was throwing balls like nobody else could, and it was probably really cool to watch. And it's unfortunate that no one outside of Queens and those of you who listen to this knew who Tom Seaver was until right now. So you're welcome.
One more stat to throw out there. Just like the people above him on the wins list were born this century, the only person born this century above him on the WAR leaderboard for pitchers is Roger Clemens.
That's impressive.
The other five people, Lefty Grove, Pete Alexander, Kid Nichols, Walter Johnson, Cy Young, all born in the 19th century.
It's ridiculous, right?
Yep.
We're going to remember his name like Fort Minor once said. Anyway, that's going to be it for us for this episode. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media. Give us your ideas. We love doing this, so give us a reason to keep going. And that is what you don't know about Tom Seaver. Until next time, bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of What You Don't Know About Sports. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please leave us a review, 5 stars only, and hit that subscribe button wherever you listen. If you have a great sports story, we want to hear about it. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WYDKAS Podcast, and on our YouTube channel at What You Don't Know About Sports Podcast. All episodes are written, recorded, and edited by us. Stay tuned for the next episode.